I'm that girl who's having a cup of grounding for her Monday morning. Yay! Welcome back. um, Fun times, fascinating, fun times. And it's all about perspectives, right? My Monday morning here, 7:07, and, relaxing, enjoying the rest of August. August 2020. What a mind bend, all right? A mind bend. Time definitely is man-made illusion, isn't it? Oh, she's a hater today. But in all sincerity, much love to all of humanity for trying to organize things and help each other out. And that is the topic for one of the topics that I will try to mansplain to you today is about people saying, oh, I'm so sick of my so-and-so influencer, talking about the environment and the environment crisis and, the change of, what are the cool words that they say now about this, in crisis and climate crisis. They always sort of seem to talk about it as a big distraction, right? Because they don't want to talk about other topical things. So they talk about the elephant in the room, but they don't talk about the full elephant in the room, do they? Or do they? Who knows? Who hasn't watched mainstream media in a long time? And, I feel quite liberated by that. So pardon me if I'm out of all my trendy sayings that are current right now. I still would prefer to say choice and ace for things, but, there's that. So my point I'm trying to make to you today is when we have heard clients going through this shift and what that looks like for them, and then what they're doing to help assist others after they have shifted, but prior to getting to New Earth, they are supporting people. And people are in shock. And when you have to evacuate a whole planet, and they say, well, no, Earth is fantastic. Earth is amazing. And we have to remind them, well, remember those earthquakes that were happening and those volcanoes and those floodings and that drought and all this other sort of stuff. And then a few other sort of bigger things. Remember how we got there. And they might just say, oh, it wasn't that bad. I want to go back because, I've got my mortgage to pay and, worried about, the garden. So, it's quite the big shock. And we don't like much change. I know my family don't appreciate the change of just changing 1 hour with daylight savings. So could you imagine a full relocation? It's quite a big deal. And so for us to support those people who don't know the bigger thing about, a planet's soul, life contracts of that planet's soul, and a whole lot of things, they are going to remember these sort of things because they're very compliant, because they diligently watch the news. They stop using plastic straws because they wanted to save the environment, and then quickly followed up with that with thousands and thousands of masks. Fantastic, right? They turn into little sails, and they're the little latest butterfly collection, apparently, because in my windy city, we see them often. So, interesting times. So they may not be aware of all of the crimes against humanity, and they may just think this is just natural events that are occurring. There's no one using their free will to harm us. That's ridiculous. My news presenter would have told me about that. So they're very focused, very, very, very focused on being so intelligently up to date with the news that they know all. And so for some of those people, we aren't able to use metaphysics to be able to explain our life contracts of a planet, but we can talk about how, just like with anything physical, when it dies, the body rapidly declines and decays. I know we can go to an embalmer and get some people pickled up a little bit longer for us to mourn and grieve over them, and get relatives in and, have that farewell ceremony in some cases. In other cases, because of climate, in terms of a hot climate, We know that they want to bury their dead quickly. We know that some people want to burn their dead. So whatever is the most respectful. Now, isn't that interesting? Could it be said that in certain areas around the world, how you respect the physical body in its death may be a reflection of how in the majority of that location, the same could be said for the body of Gaia? Because we know lots of different things are happening. So yeah, very interesting. Haven't really explored that. So, our cultures and how we treat death and the body of our dead, could be quite significant. And, depending on your life contract and the way that you could accept and process what's happening to this planet and why, and what you personally experienced in the location you're living before you evacuated, before you shifted, before you shifted, whatever labels you want to call it, or, explain it. Mansplaining is the best, I find. Anyway, so this is why a lot of people have been talking about the climate. So when you're in shock and you want to blame someone, well, who did this? This was natural. We could then sort of softly say, well, we have heard about climate change, right? We have heard that our choices with our, certain energy consumption, our certain mining of the planet, we could talk about those sort of tangible things, while we could also be wanting to talk about, well, when we carried so much trauma energetically, that was a very swampy, thick, dense planet to be. The blessing and bonus of talking to these people after they have shifted is that they're quite comfortable in a lighter frequency body. They may not even notice they're in their crystalline bodies because they're still very focused on their Bob and Jane lifetime. And that is fantastic. That gives them comfort and hope and, just security. And often it seems like for a while, people will use the illusion of having their physical carbon-based bodies with them for a certain amount of time until they realize that they no longer need it. And it's just what they're portraying. And it will become easier and easier as everyone is supporting each other and understanding what has happened and why. And it is a shame, because we were supposed to have all of this here. We were supposed to be able to have, paradise here, and that we were all supposed to mature, work together, be unconditionally loving beings to everyone and all, and be able to, work together and have no manipulation, no corruption, and, certainly nothing that would poison us or manipulate us or distract us, because we would be connecting again so deeply and having strong, big communities. And so we've sort of run out of time with that. And as we know from many sessions, I've done the crying, I've done the begging, I've done everything to try and figure out how we could stop this. It doesn't matter what subconscious I'm asking about in sessions with either BQH or QHHC sessions, the subconscious will always remind me my place. And that nothing one human could do, or all humans could do, would be able to change the life contract of Gaia staying here in this vessel. It is not a healthy vessel. You would have compassion over an animal who time was to come. You also have great compassion for elderly whose time has come, and their quality of life is not how it could be or should be. And so we have got to make some big choices, some big decisions. And usually those, apart from the animals, well, in New Zealand, there is a Dignity to Die Act, Death with Dignity. So terminally ill patients can have easier processes to exit the body. Of course, it was very controversial. So it's very interesting how we still process death, how we still are scared of death, and scared definitely of hearing about life after death. And it seems we need to be able to support people who are very, very, very confused and don't want to think or really trust or understand that the body of this planet is, it's very decaying, it's very old, in terms of, you can have like a really healthy older person who is super sprightly and really positive and looks amazing. And then you can have a really bitter, twisted, angry, so-and-so younger person. And, they look a lot older. And so I guess when I wanted to mansplain how old this planet is, it's irrelevant, isn't it? Just like time's irrelevant, really. The energy of this planet was no longer serving her, and she wanted to expand. She doesn't want to be forever stuck in a third dimensional body at all. And she was wanting to be able to support you with her own energy field to be able to help everyone shift as well. And she wanted to be a big part of shifting into the fifth dimension here to be able to help all those who were here. Very challenging when you've got certain beings that physically can't hold the frequency of the fifth dimension. So it was fun times to plan that. And thank goodness we have amazing collectives that know what they're doing, and that this is, something that they've been working on for a long time. There is much more of them than there is of us here on Earth. It's a very fun thing to ask in sessions, how many people really are here on Earth? If I Googled the number, would that be the consistency of what subconscious you think are here on Earth at this time? Fun times. We can't really assume too much unless we hear it in sessions and keep asking the subconscious for the perspectives and concepts of it. My journey and what I'm going through is different from some clients, and that's fantastic because they don't want to go to New Earth, have no interest in going to New Earth, thank you. They're going home, and they love that, and they're so excited about that, but they want to be here as big frequency holders to be able to help absorb lots of density while loving lots of people in true fashion. We know when we have a grudge, when we judge people doing things that we think, goodness, how can they be so blind? They're feeling our judgment too. And we're here to love all. If you want to believe in Jesus and his life contracts and his way of life, he showed everyone that even the lepers needed love and caring. Especially those who are scared and unwell. We know that we're doing these things to ourselves. Haven't heard of a victim yet who is completely a victim to an illness. Always have heard in sessions that this is their life contract and the experiences that they wanted to, or they have created it. So you either are creating it or you have a life contract to create it. So, exploring everything is very helpful. We don't need to judge because we don't understand all of the purposes for all aspects and levels and layers of each independent experience. It may not sound like fun to have certain illnesses, but for that soul, that is fantastic fun. It is fantastic experiences, and really important. And it's sort of like when you go somewhere and you collect a lot of souvenirs for the memories, having certain illnesses, certain exit points, certain family dynamics is the souvenirs for Earth. And so we have to be able to understand all significant experiences that other people are choosing, including our own. And what may be our cup of tea for our soul's journey may not be for everyone. And also, I know many people are saying, no, there's no freaking way I would have chosen this. No way. I am definitely a hostage here on this planet. And it's, it's a valid feeling, but let's explore it in sessions. Let your subconscious tell you the truth. And then be reminded, yep, we signed up for this. We've helped evacuate many planets before, and it's always, can be quite a tense little shit show when there is no faith and trust of what we're trying to warn people and help people, and to not be distracted. And when I say people, and other planets, it's not always humanoids, is it? So there's that. So while we are very wary and cautious of mainstream media news and information, we have to be able to see, is there any significance in helping people understand what's to come from a different perspective? Now, if we can support people who are very shocked with with what has happened to the shift, and they're finding themselves in a very interesting position, they want to go into blame. And we can remind them that they are very much aware of the climate changes and the instability and planets, while people may not consciously be aware of planets dying, it happens, right? And it's sort of been foretold in many different ways, but gets a bit confused, because when we just take for granted this earth, especially those people who've been living here for hundreds of lifetimes, they are so busy on their life contracts and their life experiences and what they want to learn and grow from, they sort of haven't really factored in, that planet. And so this is definitely taking a lot longer than most beings were expected. They were thinking that they'd come here for a few quick fun times and then leave. And the thing is that it's getting more and more and more challenging with much more experiences to have. And so for those people, those beings who love collecting memorabilia and trinkets for their experiences, they're wanting the whole set. They've got half the collection. So they're wanting it all. And their life contracts are supported by that, especially those who have only ever had physical lifetimes on Earth. You could call that their home planet, and you can see why they would want to have the full range of experiences here. And all collectives are wanting to support everyone with that. But at this time, this very sort of fragile time, where people are really needing to focus as much as they can to remember how to love each other and support each other and be in tune with each other. And while I can sort of be silly and mock people who are wearing masks, we know that this is a very important way for people to stop lip reading and to actually feel into what the words are and what the demeanor of that person is. So they're actually looking at each other's eyes more often, because when you are actually lip reading or seeing a whole face, you look at the lips speaking to you versus the windows of the soul speaking to you. And so isn't that a more profound, intimate connection when we're looking at each other's eyes and conversing? Because the masks are a sort of a void to the physical features. And so we all get to, if we choose, focus on talking to each other and looking and having meaningful gazes of our eyes. And that is more connecting to our intuition, because as you may notice from me, it's hard to hide my feelings when I'm expressing everything to you with my eyes. So of course you've seen me nearly give myself a stroke many times, having massive eye rolls, because I just, can be a jerk sometimes too. So, that's me. But it's interesting to know why people are why people need to have these masks for communication. And this is, again, another thing moving forward. So when they are communicating with each other at a more telepathic level and needing to tune into emotions, other people's emotions and their own, because they know when you are being looked at in the eyes, don't read my emotions. I might be judging someone, or might be afraid. I might be talking about just the shopping, but I might be afraid. And it really comes out in the eyes. And if we actually realize that we can read eye language really well, and, body language is super important as well, it's taking away one sort of routine that we've sort of just kind of got stuck into, and we need to focus now on other aspects. That's really important. So yay for humanity changing and growing and starting to connect in with each other in different ways. And of course they've been forced to do it because they were quite happy living their pre-2020 lifestyles. And so big things had to change for them to start noticing and having new routines, new connections with each other. So anyway, when you keep hearing about the climate changes and the threat of all sorts, most of the things they're saying is sort of nonsense, but the concept of pre-warning people about the instability of a planet is going to be helpful for them, because when we're talking to them, and while we're not going to say, well, did you do your recycling? How many masks did you throw into the ocean? They may not be open to hearing that then, but they will be reminded that they were aware that they needed to be more respectful for the planet. And now they get to live the consequences of why is that. So it's significant. We all need to be responsible and accountable for, what our choices have been. And while we could say if we never recycled and, never did anything to help the environment, it's still not going to, sorry, what I was going to say is we can't save anything. Just like you can't save my life contract, even if you wanted to, we can't save Gaia's life contract. That's a bit above our pay grade. And that is cute and all. And Gaia always respects our love and our best wishes and our concerns for her. But she's not thirsty for attention or sympathy or pity or worry. She's got it going on. She's got some amazing teams around her, and she's in a very, very, very comfortable position. So she's very excited. And this is something that you could explore in your own sessions. All of these souls are open to talking and sharing. And when you know the right questions to ask about life contracts, how they're doing, and when you really care about them, they're going to be much more open to chatting. If you want to call in Gaia to give her a piece of your mind because you're pissed off because you've got veggies growing and you don't want them to be disrupted, brace yourself. She may have some words to say. But this is the thing, isn't it? Just because you can't see them doesn't mean you shouldn't disrespect them. And, we are supposed to be here focusing on loving all and being here of service to uplift and inspire people. And there is a difference between, being a jerk versus being inspiring and a caring friend. And knowing the difference between empowering people and disempowering people. It's important times. So don't get lost on your path and journey. Know that when we find ourselves judging, we can quickly get out of that grump. I know, it takes us some time to get over feeling really disappointed with people not seeing that this is part of a system that's not empowering them and quite controlling for them. So, it's very challenging to get over that, when we want to be judgmental. So this is why I appreciate the metaphysical perspectives when I go running to everyone's subconsciouses and say, why is this happening now? And then they will remind us of the time we're at, the position we're at, and what processes we're trying to help all of humanity get used to and explore and experience. It can be very traumatic when we're feeling victims and we don't remember why we're here and we don't respect life contracts. So it's all perspectives. But hopefully now you won't feel so scathingly frustrated with someone when they constantly are talking about climate change. Because, the climate's going to be brutal. There's a big change coming. So interesting times. If there is anything that is going on in the world that you cannot wrap your head around in terms of the significance of it in a metaphysical perspective, don't be shy with your feelings. If you're angry or pissed off about something, allow yourself to be angry and pissed off. And when you're finished with that, let's explore it. Let's figure out what's going on there and get that bigger perspective that you may not have considered before that makes sense given the climate we're in. Anyway, have a fantastic day. Enjoy your weeks, and sending lots of love to you, and always want to encourage you to have true self-empowerment and trust all is well. And then you're never alone, and we have each other. And great beings are here, stepping up and being of service. And that's amazing. I love that.